Now, just did a whole freaking stream and nothing got picked up. So that was very, very frustrating, but it is what it is. Welcome back to the Tommy Stone Show. I guess this is episode 2 on YouTube, but I've started posting on YouTube and started kind of posting on Substack. So kind of changing up how I've been trying to reach out to people. I have like 30 subscribers on Substack, so I'm feeling good. So I'm pretty happy, but yeah, follow me on Substack, literally the same thing, Tommy Stone Show, or I gotta forget it's this hand, Tommy Stone Show. On all platforms, you can find me everywhere. You see this mug. Oh, sorry. The first, I guess, today's topics are going to be all over the place, but I'm trying to be a little bit more energetic, so I need more things to clip. The number one thing that we're going to be talking about today is the government is lying to us about the job market and the amount of jobs that are created every single month. In February alone, this February 2026, we lost 133,000 jobs out of the job market. In the entire year of 2025, we created 185,000 jobs. That means in 1 month, we lost almost an entire year's worth of job creation. And the worst part about this is we were told at the end of 2025 that we had created 585,000 jobs. That was the initial number given to us. Every single month, we're given by the Labor Bureau statistics. They give us essentially an estimate of how many jobs they think were created every single month or lost every single month. And that is the number that essentially all financial gurus, the media companies, and what you see online on CNBC, that's the number that's reported publicly, is this estimated number. But in reality, about a month or two later, every single time it gets revised and the real number comes out. And every single time over the last 2 years, the last 25 actually now it's even more, out of the last 25 job reports, 22 of the months have been revised down negatively, and in most cases, a very severe mark down. Like I said, for February, we have now know we lost 133,000 jobs in February. We were told in the estimate it was 90,000 jobs we lost. So we really lost 40,000 jobs more than we really gained, and than we really had actually lost. And this is a very consistent pattern. In most months that we saw in the last 2 years, what typically happens is we're told it's a positive month. Like we create 50,000 jobs. And then the revision quietly comes in 2 months later. And again, this is not written anywhere. You don't see these revision numbers anywhere. You don't see it talked about on CNBC or CNN. You don't see that much. They do it a very quiet one-piece little story about it, maybe a YouTube video here and there about a revision, but it is not a cohesive piece talking about over the last 2 years. We've been seeing job reports, these estimates, they're giving us numbers that are 80% higher than reality. So in 2025, like I said, we were told that we made 585,000 jobs. In reality, it was 180,000 jobs that we created. That is unreal. Again, that is an 80% reduction from what they're telling us in the estimates to reality. That is nuts. I mean, that is unreal. And the reason for it is because we are in a very, very severe stagflation trap. And that's why the Fed hasn't been able to do anything correctly, it seems, for the last 2 years with inflation and with handling unemployment numbers and really making sure that interest rates are where they should be. That's why Trump has been screaming about getting a new Fed chair in, and why Jerome Powell has been essentially the center of attention on Polymarket for the last year, is because nobody knows what to really do, because we are in the midst of the worst stagflation trap probably definitely in recent American history, but in probably the last 50 years. And the reason why is because, like what I just said, the job market is deteriorating at a very, very fast rate. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but the main one, everybody knows it, it's AI. AI is now taking jobs. And we're not only seeing this seep into, people thought that robotics was going to take over blue collar jobs. And we've already seen that. Like, again, Amazon has, for every human worker, they now have one robot worker. One robot worker for every human worker in Amazon, which is pretty nuts. That's a pretty crazy ratio, and they're only going to continue making sure that there's more robots now than humans. Maybe it's not exactly 1-to-1, but I think there's still a slight margin more of humans, but they're getting there. Amazon is cutting down their workforce and replacing it with robots. But this is a broader trend, like we know. Now we're seeing white collar jobs. They are getting hit the hardest by this AI revolution, essentially. We're seeing, again, I thought this is the most interesting, but lawyers, people who are breaking into becoming lawyers, those entry level law positions, like being like when you're clerking or essentially helping with the research and going through the prepping, that is now all an AI's job. That is no longer being given to people out of college. We're also seeing, again, everyone knows this, but computer science majors, people who've gone into coding, your job is already gone. People have done graphic design, those jobs are already done. I mean, it's only going to continue. It's only going to continue getting worse. Anthropic released a report about a month ago at this point saying that essentially the capabilities of AI are only at about a 1/5 of what they anticipated to be. And again, that's just what they're anticipating. Again, anticipations are always wrong. Nobody is ever 100% correct when it comes to reality. And for the most part, what we're seeing is a wide adoption of AI, and this mass adoption is only going to continue. It's only going to continue to also increase in the amount of companies that have to adopt AI, because if they don't adopt AI, then they're only behind in the race, and they're only behind their competitors who are adopting AI. So it's a really bad snowball effect of this AI essentially being adopted by now not only individuals, but on almost every single corporation level, from huge Fortune 500 companies to small businesses. Everybody's adopting AI. There's nobody who's not trying to figure out a way to leverage it and use it to save them some money. And that's the real kicker about everything, is that's where this comes back to the stagflation trap, is everything is getting more expensive. Everybody needs to save some money. Every corporation needs to save some money right now, because inflation is really bad. Everything is getting really, really expensive, and it's not really getting any better. Again, like I've said, I've harped on this before, but in 2024 and 2025, we have seen real wages increasing because of inflation. Again, inflation is naturally going to have to drive up wages. All corporations know this. You're not going to be able to retain any talent unless you increase the amount you're paying your workers during high inflation times. I mean, this is just a fact, and everybody knows it. So we have high wages alongside high inflation, alongside now growing unemployment and the job market shrinking. So this is stagflation 101. Oil is now at about $110 a barrel for crude. It's only going to continue to get more extreme as well, that now that oil prices are elevated, because we're only going to see this really affecting the balance sheets of every single company in the S&P specifically, but the entire stock market. Everything gets more expensive for companies. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that these oil producers are going to be making a lot more money, because how do you get the oil barrels from one place to another? Well, you got to ship it somehow. And oil is very, very heavy. That's something that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's not easy to transport it. I mean, we have figured out the ways to transport on these massive, massive cargo ships. But like we've seen, sometimes a cargo ship can get stuck in a canal, and for 7 days we lose all access to parts of the world. So it's not a perfect system. Again, the Strait of Hormuz is completely closed right now. And that's for a bunch of different reasons. In my opinion, the main reason why America is not necessarily jumping the gun on trying to open up the strait is because it is cutting off China just as much as it's cutting off anybody else. And we also now have Venezuela, as everybody else knows. The whole Maduro situation. We now control all of Venezuela's oil production, and we're putting all of our private companies in there to essentially go from Venezuela used to be able to produce 3 million barrels of oil per day. After Maduro's little reign for the last 15, 20 years, it's now at under 800,000 barrels a day, I believe. It's pretty much a third. Their production capabilities are a third of what they used to be. Trump is now sending all of our American companies into the air, all of the American producers of oil, getting them in there and essentially now bringing that number from 800,000 to 3 million again and above. America is now the number one oil producer in the entire world. We now produce more oil than Saudi Arabia, which is absolutely nuts. Now, I don't know why that's not a talked about fact online, but we are really, really making a lot of geopolitical moves like we have never done before. And I think this is only going to continue to ramp up because, like I said, we're in a stagflation trap. And not only that, we have a massive debt. Everyone loves to talk about it, but I feel like it's gone quiet the last few months. What is going on with our debt? How are we going to plan to pay off this debt? There is no plan. That's the truth. I believe that we're going to try to inflate this debt away. That is the only chance that we have of making sure that this debt isn't going to just essentially collapse our economy, is we have to inflate it away. And there's a lot of ways that this could be done. I mean, the specifics of it are very ridiculous and complicated, but historically, essentially either your economy crashes or you have to inflate your debt away. That's how it goes. There's only a few options, and America right now is on that path inherently of inflating it away, because we've been seeing massive amounts of inflation in our ability, in our Fed printing money. It's only going to continue. We haven't seen any slowdown from the Fed printing money. So that's only going to continue getting worse and worse. Another very interesting caveat to this whole thing was the tariff war. People were screaming about the tariff. Ingo, you're making my everything more expensive. The supermarket, my eggs are more expensive now when I'm going to the supermarket because of tariffs, or whatever. Everything got more expensive because of tariffs. When in reality, this was a complete lie. This is why the Supreme Court striking down Trump's tariff plans was ridiculous. They didn't even do it in its entirety. They only struck down the ones that weren't approved by Congress, which, granted, sure, there is some precedent for that, but we are in a time of war. This is an economic war with China. They were sieging war on us for years, essentially stopping all American products from ever being shipped into China, and only Chinese products being able to be shipped out into American consumers' hands. And the reason for that is there's a lot of reasons, but the two main ones are China has no labor laws. You can pay their people pennies on the dollar compared to what you have to pay American people. So that's always my question to socialists of why they like to say, oh, but China is the example that kills capitalism. No, it doesn't. People in China, again, they get paid garbage wages. They have no rights. You can't speak out against Xi Jinping. You can't even post or talk about Pooh Bear because people used to make fun of him saying he looked like Pooh Bear, Xi Jinping, the dictator of the Chinese Communist Party. They used to say you look like him. So now if you talk about Pooh Bear, you can get arrested for talking about Pooh Bear in China. You think these people have rights? I mean, sure, you have the ability to live your life in some regards and that you can live, but this is a communist dictatorship running every single aspect of these people's lives. China is also completely deteriorating. I don't know why people give China so much credit. They have one of the worst dependency ratios in the entire world. They have a massive elderly population that's only living longer and not going anywhere because of the medicine, essentially the effectiveness of medicine and the lifespan increases that we've seen because of modern medicine. These older people are only going to continue living longer and longer. In China, we all know the one-child policy. They have a very small workforce compared to this huge elderly population that they need to take care of. So they're having a huge dependency crisis. They're also having a natural resource crisis because everybody knows they're one of the most industrialized countries in the entire world. And in doing so, they destroyed every single asset of natural resources that they had. They've polluted all their drinking water. They've polluted all their air. They've mined and logged every single piece of wood and minerals that they have in China. I mean, they have decimated their natural resources and their landscape. Their farmland is also getting absolutely decimated. I forget the exact percentage of it, but because of all this pollution that I've just mentioned, all this destruction of their natural landscape, their farmland is also going away. That's why China's buying so much land all over the world for farmlanding. That's a secondary reason why. It's because their own farmland is just gone. There is no farmland left for China to use. No fresh water left for them. It is a crisis over there. No air for them to breathe. I mean, it is a crisis. And it's something else that I am really frustrated with the American economy and kind of what's going on with Trump is, again, with this whole tariff debate, is people were screaming about the tariffs making their life more expensive, when in reality, this was just blanket inflation making your life more expensive. Tariffs, there have been dozens of studies and dozens of reports done about it. I forget exactly by who, but what we've seen is that actually the producers were the ones who ate all of these consumer costs, or all of these tariff costs, not the consumer. The consumer, of course, saw a little bit of an increase due to tariffs, but the increase due to tariffs was so fractional compared to the actual real inflation increases in costs of goods and costs of what you're buying at the supermarket, that the tariff increase was essentially nothing. It was indifferent. It was really real inflation driving up our costs still. And that is a huge issue that we really need to focus on, is how we're going to get inflation down. How can we maybe see a little bit of deflation maybe? I mean, have we seen deflation at all in recent American history? I think we've seen like 1 month of deflation in the last like 2 or 3 years. So I don't know. Things are getting a little bit ridiculous on that end, but I'm kind of talked out right now. Again, the whole job market is a very interesting situation, mainly because of the AI now taking over not only blue collar jobs because of robotics. Like Amazon, like I said, they have a lot of robotic workers, but the whole issue is now that we're seeing white collar people losing their jobs. So that's only going to continue getting worse. So hope to my college people, college isn't a scam, but you better learn how to leverage AI and use AI tools in every single field, every single industry. Even if you're just an art major in college, you better learn how to use AI or you're going to lose your job. AI is just going to replace you. So unless you learn how to leverage it, unless you learn how to use it, it's only going to come and get you. We're not seeing the regulation and the level of regulation, the type of scrutiny that we'd like to see from lawmakers with AI. They're kind of just letting it run rampant. They're kind of doing a let's see what happens and then we'll act second and regulate second type of approach. And that is not a good approach. That is not going to end well. So leverage AI, make sure you're ahead of the game. And yeah, thank you for watching today's episode of The Tommy Stone Show.